Hello everyone and welcome. This is section 6 in the intermediate series and it is on functions. Now this is kind of the first lesson but also a review. I'm going to be doing the functions or most of the functions we covered in the 101 series. If you haven't watched that and you want to, you can by all means look through those videos. If you have already watched it, chances are you won't need this video, although it might be a good refresher. I just wanted to quickly go through those functions just to ensure we're all on the same page, both on making functions, looking at arguments and things, and to use some of these functions. Here I have formula text, and this is a nice way to be able to see what a formula is without actually having to rewrite that entire formula. Here, let's start by doing upper. We want to do this name. You can put that one argument, which is text, hit enter. I'm going to not do the suggested autofill. And now we have that name in uppercase. Same for lower and proper. It's the same thing. Outside of, it'll put it in lowercase. Proper, and that will capitalize the first letter of each word or space between. The next one is concatenate. And this one is one that allows you to essentially add multiple strings together, and it's up to however many you want. So in this example, maybe you wanted to have the first name and the person ID in one place. You might not want that exactly, but you do concatenate, and then you could use person ID, comma, and then the name. You hit enter. And you could pull that down to continue to get the rest of them. Now, maybe you wanted a space between it too. You are actually able to go into this and manually add another one. You will need to use apostrophes to do that, but now there's a space. You might even want it to be like a dash. So person ID dash the name and so on. And again, if you pull that down, then it would be 5 and then the next name, 6 and so on. We're going to just keep it in the example one just so that we have it. But that would be concatenate. The next one is XLOOKUP, and this one does have a lot more options to it. I didn't mention in the other one, but anytime there are those brackets, that means that it's optional. There's a lot of words, and you can, by all means, read all of this if you want, or if you start the XLOOKUP and you have this, you can open it up to see, and this is where I got all of this information. If you push the X, you only see that, you can push the question or F1 to be able to see. Essentially what this does is it allows you to search something in a range. So let's say here we want to look up who has the employee ID 1. So the lookup range would be where we're trying to find this person ID. So in this case, it would be here. Now, it's a structured table, so it is actually formatting it as person and the person ID. If you use the entire row, let's say, like you can do that as well. I'm going to keep it like this, and then we want to come up with the name at the end. So that's the search key, which is required, the lookup range, and the result range once when that number is found. Now, you can also have this missing value. If it doesn't find that, you can say not found. I'm going to put enter, and you can see here that it found that name. I'm going to switch it to 4. You can see it goes to 1, 2, 3, 4 and pulls that column. Now, if there's another one like 10, you'll see not found. And I did put this as a number and hard-coded this, meaning I am typing it within that. You can also use this as a range. So maybe we want G7 to be what we're looking for. So now if in G7, if I put a 4, it's looking for number 4, and then we get the name. I'm just going to hit undo, undo, and let's just put this back to, 7, just as an example. So again, this would be another example, and maybe you want to try this. You create a formula to find the person ID for this name, Jennifer Pratt. You can pause the video if you want and try to write this. Otherwise, you can continue to watch and I'll go ahead and go through it. So first off is XLOOKUP. You can select the name, and in this case, well, I'm going to hide this so I can see. In this case, we need to have the names be the lookup range. And then the person ID is what we want to bring if we find it. I'm going to close it off, hit enter, and there we go. Now again, let's say we have another name and we paste it in here. You can see that the person ID switches. I'm just going to do Control Z to undo. That person ID is 5. Again, if you're just looking at one and it's a small table like this, I wouldn't make this. But again, if you're looking at hundreds or thousands of rows, this is something that is very helpful. The next one is substitute. Substitute allows you to search for text and replace that text when found in a different format. You can also optionally choose how many times you want it to be replaced. For example, if you have 3 names, maybe you only want the first space, like the first name, then last name, and then the third, to only be removed. It's again up to you. In this case, they're all just 2 names here, and let's go ahead and use substitute to create an email. Now, what we can do over in this table is we will want to start by doing substitute. Let's open this up here, and we're going to have the text to search. So that's going to be this name. Now, what we're wanting to search for is the space, and we want to replace that space with maybe an underscore. Let's close this off, and there we go. Now, this would technically not be a full email yet based on the fact that, well, there's no email. So what you could do is nest this function. And we did cover that in that first series, but nesting function is when you use multiple ones. So you could concatenate this string, which will show as Samaya Gamble, comma, with at realemail.com. Hit enter, and there we go. Now we have this full real email, although it's not. Finally, too, if you want to add another layer to this, is you could wrap this whole thing in a lower in order to have it all be lowercase. That's generally how emails are formed. I'm just going to bring this down, and there we go. Now we have emails, and we used substitute, concatenate, all sorts of stuff. I guess I could copy this and put it in here. There we go, just to have something. Next will be split. So split will actually take that text that we're looking at, so the name, for example, and find a delimiter, which would be the thing that you are looking for to split it by. And then it will split it and actually put whatever's in the front and the back of that in different cells. It would be an array formula, so it'll actually spill into other cells. Split by each allows you to put multiple characters to split by, and either, for example, if you are saying comma and space, that it'll have to only be when there is a comma space, and it would split it by that, or for every space and for every comma. Finally, empty text, you can remove that as well. In this one, we're just going to use the text in the delimiter. Let's say that we want to go into the first name, and we want first name and last name. You can use split to take this text and split it by spaces. Hit enter, and you can see now the first name is here, and the last name is here. There isn't any space in this anymore. You can bring this down, and there you go. Now again, this works for this data set. Sometimes it gets a little more complex if some of them have, 2 last names, or, maybe there's some errors where there's extra spaces or things like that. And that can cause some different, formulas to break or to have an extra column added. But for now, we're just going to leave it like that. If I put it in here, it's going to carry over too, which is what it's supposed to do. So I'm just going to leave it blank. That'll hurt me to keep it there. Last one is FORMULATEXT. Now that's what we've been using here. I did also include IFNA, which helps with errors, just in case. If I didn't have that and there wasn't any text in there, it would cause this NA error because there's no text. So then if I do formula text to here, you can then see that this formula text is reading this formula text, and then this shows what's going on. That's all that we're doing here for that review. Then we're going to start getting into some newer intermediate functions that, for me, have been some of the most used in the workspace, both to manipulate data, to adjust data, to look up data, and to then create some logical expressions. Hopefully you find this helpful. Do those social things, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. We always appreciate that. See you in the next one. Bye now.